Hi everyone, welcome to our next Community Spotlight. This time we are going to be talking to Christian Clark. Christian is currently a master's student studying collaborative piano at Michigan State University. One of Christian's passions is the study of yoga, in which he is a certified yoga teacher from Yoga Alliance. This spotlight, I talked to Christian about this process of becoming a certified yoga teacher, defining what is yoga, and how yoga and his musical life interact with one another. Hope you all enjoy, and I'm happy to introduce Christian Clark. There's a lot of things to go over and talk about, but I thought maybe a good starting place would be to define or just give your own definition or explanation of what yoga is. I know just for people
Okay.
that we've been around, like their only experience with yoga would be doing a few poses in marching band and like stuff like that. So like physical stuff. Um, but
hmm
basically, like, how do you define it as physical versus spiritual versus mental? Um, yeah.
Well, okay.
Loaded question.
An
Sorry.
entire book, an entire book right here. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So yes, yoga does include like the actual physical movement of the body, and that's actually yoga uses the ancient language of Sanskrit. I don't
Mhm.
know why. I don't know the history that well yet, but so all of these limbs of yoga, and I'll get to that in a second, and all of the poses actually have like a Sanskrit name. So like mountain pose, or like the one where you're literally just standing there and it looks like nothing, but like you're like engaging everything. Or the one where you're at the end of a practice where you're just laying down there doing nothing. It's like the resting pose. It's also called Shavasana. So
Oh,
that's
cool.
Sanskrit, like that's word is Shavasana. To break it down, yoga is like if you can imagine a tree with 8 limbs, and the asana is like one of these limbs. You can think of it as like rungs of a ladder or like limbs of a tree or like however, or just 8 different sections or whatever, but it's 8 of them.
Hmm.
So I have a list here that I'm looking at because I don't remember these off of the top of my head. But the first one is called yama, and it's all about. So I'll just go through these like super quick. The first one is yama, and it's about like restraints and moral disciplines or moral vows. So you can see already it's talking about like morality in general, and restraints as in like restraining yourself from not doing things that are unhealthy for you,
Mm.
that sort of thing, like a kind of keeping yourself in check, more or less.
More
So
like
it's just a
a mindset and like a life philosophy,
yeah,
really. Yeah.
yeah. So it's, yeah, you're just checking in with yourself real quick
Just checking
right
in.
here.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the second limb, or the second like a rung of the ladder, is called Nayama. So it's Niyama, Nayama. And that is positive duties or observances. Okay. So it's all about like good things in the world. So like you keep yourself in check in the first place, and then start to think about positive things and like your duties to the world. And instead of thinking about all of the negative things that are wrong with the world, you think about the positive duties you have to the world.
Mm.
And so all of these like different limbs can be taken in about a billion directions and a billion meanings. So I'm just kind of throwing stuff at you. Um, the biggest takeaway from all of this is that nothing has a clear answer.
Right.
It's, well, nothing is solid and must be followed exactly as it is, because it is so personal and about your own journey than anything else. And then the third limb is asana, which is posture or poses. So that's like the physical movement. And you can also think of this, I'm going to throw this at you, of like a pyramid type of thing. And so you have to, that's why the rungs of the ladder is a really good analogy or metaphor as well, because it's like you have to master, again, have to in loose terms, master the first rung before you can like successfully move on to the second rung. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
So, like the first thing of restraints and moral disciplines and values and vows and that sort of thing, like kind of get that in check. And then you can start thinking about the duties, get that in check. And then you can start thinking about like the physical movements. And now we get to like what is the purpose of the physical movements? And is it to help you move better? Yes. But why? Well, because you want to do this with your life, because you want to do better with it, you know? So it's always that why question and is like what is happening next and what's the goal, that sort of thing. Then we move on to the fourth rung or the fourth limb or whatever, and that's pranayama, which is breathing techniques. And so I'll say this sometime when I'm teaching. I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw in a bit of pranayama here. Let's breathe for a second.
Hmm.
And this is exactly what I would do with like a classroom or like a private lesson. Just going to read a bit here that I found. It's prata means to withdraw, draw in, or draw back. And the second part, ahara, refers to anything we take in by ourselves, such as the various sights, sounds, and smells our senses take in continually. So when we're sitting in a formal meditation practice, this is likely to be the first thing we do when we think we're meditating, is we're drawing in. So we can also think about this limb as like starting to block out the unnecessary things in your lives.
Hmm.
So whatever that means for you specifically. But like again, it's like getting rid of the negative, um, shedding the bad habits, that sort of thing. Again, more cleaning up your life,
Yeah.
right? What this
Whatever those
sounds like.
thoughts might be, or actions. I mean, like whatever. I guess they are taking a form of, really. But yeah.
Yes, exactly. And the next one, if I can say this, is da dharana, dharana,
Dirana.
dharana, dharana. It's Dharana.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a lot of A's in Sanskrit. Like it's always A's with consonants in between. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But this one is focused concentration.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now that we've, taken everything, if I go down the limbs real quick, we've focused on our moral values. We've focused on the positive things in life. We've started to move our bodies a bit so that we can get used to, moving around in the world. And now that we've started to focus in on our breath and we've like a sort of sense withdrawal, and then we have a focused concentration on a single thing. You can start to see how all of this is like shedding away all of the unnecessary in our life, and it's really starting to like focus in on ourselves. And in a bit it's going to blossom and open up to everything, but right now it's like really starting to focus in. With that sense withdrawal, it's really getting rid of everything, and then forced concentration or focus concentration is once again pinpointing our like conscious thought. And the next step or the next limb is meditation. And so there we are. Meditation or dhyana,
Okay. Yeah.
meditative absorption, really. So everything up to this point is really like drawing you in, drawing you in, drawing you in, shutting out the unnecessary. And then meditation is like the pinnacle where we reach right here for us. But there's one more limb, and it's called, if I can say this one, samadhi.
Samadhi.
Samadhi. Samadhi. I think that's it. It's Samadhi. So think of samadhi. And that is bliss or enlightenment.
Mm.
So that is what, the Buddha experienced,
Nirvana.
sort of. Nirvana, enlightenment, yes. Escaping samsara, all that sort of stuff. Um, yeah, and so the eight limbs of yoga are kind of like all drawing you in and like trying to improve your life, like get rid of the unnecessary, all the negative, like focus in on yourself and make like your habits and your thoughts better so that you can give back to the rest of the world and like live your life as you were truly meant to live your life rather than getting distracted and pulled in one direction or another because it's super easy to have everyone tell you what you're supposed to do,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I have a quick kind of like question, I guess, kind of like just doing an overview of all of this that we've covered then for defining yoga. I think um, when people talk about yoga, it's kind of like the three like things I described at the beginning of like a physical, a mental, or a spiritual exercise. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
the main conclusion of all of this is that yoga is all three of those things. And the main takeaway is that it's important to know the history and where it comes from and all of these limbs that we've gone over. But if someone chooses to use yoga as like breathing and like box breathing, like you talked about, or whatever that may be in that moment, that's great. If someone chooses to do an hour yoga workout or whatever with a bunch of different poses and stuff, like that's great for them. And that it doesn't have to be a binary singular thing, basically. If I'm
Yep.
wrapping this up right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yoga is whatever it is for you,
Hmm.
I guess is a one sentence description of that. It's such a wide variety of options and ideas. And if you want to get into it, philosophy, like if that's your thing, then you can go down a billion rabbit holes down that topic. Or if you really just like after like a stressful day or you're upset at someone and you want to go and sit it out on the mat, you just want to like go to a class and have them kick your butt and like, oh my gosh, I just want to be sweating droplets. Great. Love that for you. Like
Yeah,
that's
get
perfect.
it.
Would you call that a workout maybe? Yeah, maybe. But you know what? It works.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it is really whatever it is for you. And the one thing I'll say to kind of wrap this like little section up is that the physical and the mental, spiritual, emotional, like all that sort of thing, the physical and the not physical are so intertwined. I would like call them the same because sometimes you can do the physical and it's just like, oh, yeah, that felt good. That felt good in my body. Great. Now, how do you feel mentally? Right? Like you feel better.
And it
That's why
changes,
people
yeah.
say like, yeah, it's like I run to get out my stress. Great. Not me, but great.
So, um, you talked about it a little bit in the first section of us defining what yoga is, of your yoga teaching certificate that you did this last
Uh,
year. Um, do you mind just describing a little bit of what that is and how you came to learn about it?
sure. So, okay. So I'm trying to think of where to start with this. So what it is, it was a 200-hour certification.
Okay.
So that was the name of it. And it kind of says it in the title. It was 200 hours of training. Um, Later on, I might go into more detail, but there's a 200-hour certification. There's a 300-hour certification for a total of 500 hours. And then there's like different specific certifications out there that aren't numbered by hours, but more by topic. So that's kind of just the overall gist. But this is the first step, like the gold star standard 200-hour certification. Here you are, now you're a yoga teacher. So I haven't gotten the actual certificate yet. I've done all the work, but I haven't, logged on and made the account
Right.
and done the paperwork and gotten it mailed to me and that sort of thing. Um, but once I do, it'll look like an undergraduate diploma,
Hmm.
like that kind of certificate. So I could frame it and put it on the wall if I want to be that kind of person. Um, But yeah, so 200 hour certification, obviously 200 hours of training, and how that's organized is up to the teacher completely. But the teacher needs to submit their lesson plans, course work, course design. I can't think of the exact term, but they need to write up how they want to organize the course, what they want to teach in those 200 hours, and have that all curriculum. There we go. They need
Right.
to write their curriculum. That's the word I wanted. They need to write their curriculum, get it all together, all figured out, and then submit it to this organization called Yoga Alliance. Yoga Alliance is the national organization that certifies yoga teachers and yoga studios. So if you go to a Yoga Alliance certified studio to take a class, then you should know that, okay, yeah, they've got a good handle on things. Like they know what yoga is. Like I'm in good hands, sort of
Hmm.
thing. You might not vibe with the people there and might not like the sort of classes they teach, but they should be good teachers if they're a Yoga Alliance certified studio.
Okay. So, well, how did you end up deciding to do it then at CMU? Um, you talked about your teacher a little bit, Mrs. Batzner, but just I guess how were you introduced and like what was your experience with yoga before doing the certificate and the
Okay,
200 hours and all that? Yeah.
okay. So I started doing yoga. I don't know if I did any before this. I guess my first earliest memory of yoga would be like high school gym class when
Uh,
the teacher had like a bunch of random people come in different random days, It was like the first level gym class where you get a taste of everything sort of deal. And so one day he had a yoga teacher come in and we were like, okay, whatever. And so we rolled out the wrestling mats, actually, like the really thick ones, so that we could just spread out everywhere. And the yoga teacher did her thing. And I don't really remember much of or at all of what she did. Um, but the one thing I remember is the resting pose, the shavasana. You just literally lay on your
right.
back and do nothing. Relax all of your muscles. It's like you're falling asleep, and some people did. And it was great because the mats are really soft. So that was cool, and I liked it. But I actually started doing yoga classes, I suppose, in college because Red Bloom, the yoga studio, is downtown Mount Pleasant, and I went to CMU, Central Michigan. So it was really close. It was like 5 minutes from campus, right downtown. And they had these classes called Kula classes, Kula. And again, that's a Sanskrit word for community.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was the community class, which means it was free. So I did the free community
That's
class.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. She loves doing those because it really just like opens up opportunities for everyone, for the students, the community, the teachers. The teachers can walk into a Kula class and do whatever they want.
Hmm.
Because other classes have a name, like this is restorative. So you have to do something like that, or this is yin. So you have to do something like that. But Kula's like, grab bag.
What are some of your own plans, I guess, for now that you have the certificate? We talked about a lot of mindset and just ways to view life and playing and teaching. But what are some, just for yourself, practical ways you plan on incorporating like elements of yoga in your own teaching and performing in the future?
Yeah. So the easiest one and the one that like instantly came to my mind when I've thought about this before, or when you asked me now, was pranayama or breath work or breathing. You know, it's really easy to do. You can take like 30 seconds, and I would not call it pranayama.
Yep.
Like, you would get some kids laughing at you if you started like
A
saying
little bit,
Sanskrit.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, let's do some pranayama work. They'd be like, who the heck are you? Get out of here. Like,
Yeah.
this is the stupidest thing in the world. But if you like came at it from the point of, hey, we have a performance in a week. I know that can be stressful. I know of a way where we can start to reduce this stress. and I'm going to introduce it to you now so that you can continually do it so that it's more effective the 3 seconds before you walk out on stage, right?
Right.
And so then I would say, all right, everyone, put down your instruments like on the floor, on like your lap or whatever, and let's just breathe for a bit. And I would just jump right in and then guide them in some breathing. And most of them will probably be wind players. So they've done all sorts of probably breathing techniques to get like a bigger lung capacity, which actually can't really happen. You can just use it more efficiently. But I would just launch right in and say, all right, let's do this. And use that as a tool to help calm them down. Because, especially like middle schoolers and high schoolers can get really anxious and really nervous about a lot of things. They have a lot of things going on in their lives.
Do.
And sometimes they just need 5 seconds or like 2 minutes to just sit and relax. So breathing, I guess, is what I would call it. Introducing that real quick. Um, Mini side note, I taught through the Interlochen Center for the Arts. I work at the arts camp over the summer, and during 2020, it was all online. And so I taught yoga to middle schoolers, which is kind of ironic because that was before I got the certification. Whatever. It
Pre-training.
was like it was pre-training. It was kind of a little intro here. But they were like 11, 12, 13 around that age. They loved mindfulness, loved meditation, loved breath work, loved it. They wanted more.
Yeah. That's so, I feel, contrary to what anyone would think in that scenario. That there
Right?
would be rambunctious, there'd be too much energy, that like there's no way. But I'm sure just like the way that you introduce it to them and like what you call it and like how you surround it has like probably the largest influence, I imagine. But
Oh yeah. I mean, I literally did call it meditation.
mm,
Ah, so I didn't like sugarcoat it or anything
camouflage.
like that. There we go. Yeah, I didn't camouflage it. Um, but I think they love it because they're just running around all day doing everything under the sun. And I think they enjoy having a moment to sit because I don't think they do that very often. Just to sit, relax, and be in one's own head. I think that's kind of rare for middle schoolers because they're all up in each other's business about everything. And just having a few darn seconds just to relax for a moment, pretty nice.
Yeah.
So that was shocking to me too at first, but yeah. So I don't know if I would actually pull in quote unquote actual meditation into like a classroom. I might, but really it's just whatever the kids need at the moment. Like if they're being really rambunctious and you need to get them to focus, I don't know. Like I feel like as a teacher, you would know your kids. Maybe they need a bit of harsh love. Maybe they need like a bit of a snapping from you, like, get with it, let's go, and then jump right in. Maybe they need that at the moment. Or maybe they need to like just relax and bring it down for a second so they can focus. So, I mean, that's, up to the teacher in the moment, knowing your students of what they need. But
Yeah, I guess, well, that's a really good question of you talked about it a little bit right there, but just if there's teachers listening for music or whatever subject, um, if they're hearing this or if they've just heard things about yoga and they're wondering how to like they hear so many great benefits of it, but they're just wondering how to do it in the classroom. What are some avenues or like ways that you see that we'll say just music teachers could use it within a band rehearsal hall, basically?
mhm. Well, hmm. I think anything that a music teacher could use, I think anyone could use. Like a breath work, You could do that in a math class.
Mm.
Have fun. Like before a test, you could just have them relax. Like it's not that groundbreaking to just relax for a bit, right? Like I don't think it would fly too well, and maybe it would, who knows, in a classroom to have like stop class and say, all right, let's do yoga. And then you like, all right, now warrior two, now sweep this arm up and move. And you see like a whole class of like 20 or 30 high schoolers like doing all these like fancy yoga poses and like getting on their backs and like all this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe that floats their boat. And if it does, great for them. But I mean, breath work can be done in any setting at any moment. Um, and in cases of like specific ideas, it's a Google search away. I hate to say that sometimes, but like all of these breathing techniques, it's not new. It is
True.
not
It's
new.
very true.
Like they've existed for hundreds of thousands of years and been rebranded about that many times as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so I'm sure if you really want to get some specific ideas of like what to do, I'm sure there's like a local like yoga studio or something that you could probably talk to the owner if you really want to get like very specific ideas about something that you want to do. Um, in most classes, in non-music classes, I think breathing is about as far. That's wrong. Sometimes I think it's easy just to stretch for a bit. Like it
Mm.
sounds so simple, but like when people say, "Oh, let's do yoga." Like don't even call it yoga. Just say,
Let's
"All right,
stretch.
let's stretch." Like I can see everyone is very discombobulated. No one can focus. Stand up. Brain break. Right? Elementary teachers are the best at this. Brain break. Like,
Yeah.
let's get up. And then it's like, reach towards the sky like you're gonna touch the sky and you're gonna grab a bird. No, reach towards the earth. Like make it as fun, as silly as the kids can handle it. You know, as you think the kids want it, really.
Mm.
Sell it to them. You're a teacher. There you go. But like any sort of movement, getting up, stretching this way, moving that way, whatever, like I don't need to get into details of like movement, but just get their bodies moving and get them if they need to focus in, get their bodies moving and then get them focused on their breath. It's the best. Like right before a class, you can say, or like right before a test, I meant to say, you can be like, all right, for like 2 minutes, we're just gonna breathe for a bit, and then you can guide them, or I am sure you can find a billion meditation or breathing exercising videos on YouTube. Throw one of those up, and you can say, if you hate this, ignore it. I don't care. But just sit there and don't ruin it for everyone else. You know?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And it takes 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds. I don't know. And it maybe you'll.
So, I guess a final question I wanted to ask is
Okay.
hypothetical, if you will. Say there's someone watching that's really interested about yoga now, or just they've heard a lot of things about yoga from friends and stuff, and they really want to learn more or possibly try it in whatever form that may work for them. What would you suggest to them of how to go about that, of what to search or what to do? Again, final loaded question, but
You just love the loaded questions.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, first thing, I guess, is keep going. Don't give up. Because it's really easy to go to a class or watch things online or whatever and be like, oh, they're so much better. Well, guess what? They've been doing it for, a billion years, and oh my goodness. And then also, strong opinions I call them Instagram yogis. Yogi is like the name of like someone who does
Mm-hmm.
yoga. I
Yeah.
don't know, it's kind of a weird term, but I call them the Instagram yogis who like strike a pose, maybe it's like a handstand and then they lift a hand up or something. And it's just like a really hard, difficult pose. But guess what? They held it for like 1 second, someone took a picture and then they dropped out of it.
Yeah.
Literally, it was a picture moment. That's it. That's it.
Yep.
Who cares? Good for you. Like it does not matter. So don't pay attention to the Instagram yogis. Get caught up in that business. Just don't. Um, there are 1,000,000,005 different like yoga videos on YouTube that you can look up and like do. And you can do that if you want. Like there's no harm or foul in like looking up free yoga classes on YouTube. They're out there. They're everywhere. Um, I would really push someone if they wanted to start doing like yoga consistently to go to someone in person, to
Okay.
take a
Yeah.
class in person. And it may not be a class that you enjoy. Fine. Find a different one. In one studio, there may be like 7 different kinds of classes. Try them all. See what you like, you know? Or maybe you don't like the general philosophy of that studio. Find a different studio. They're everywhere, you know?
Yeah. What are the
So
distinctions between online, like watching yoga versus going to a studio? Like for you and your experience, like what are the distinctions that you would think it would be more beneficial for someone to go?
because you get that hands-on experience.
Okay.
Because a yoga teacher can be there and they're not going to be mean about it. They're going to be very nice about it, but they can correct you and help you
Right.
however you individually need help. So if you're watching like a random YouTube video, you could move in a way and you could be like doing a pose you think, but and like maybe your body is in like the shape of that pose, whatever it is, but you're not getting any of the benefits from that pose because you're not engaging the right muscles. You're not using the right parts of your body. You're not stretching
Hmm.
the right muscles here or there, wherever it is. But if you go to an actual class in person, then the teacher can be like, all right, I think you need to, bend your knees here a
Maybe.
bit. Another important part of like choosing a yoga studio that you want to go to, because some studios that Chris has been to, I haven't. Um, I think it was in another state even, but she said that it was very cold feeling, like not physically cold, but it felt like a cold atmosphere and the attitude because it was like you walk in the studio, you roll out your mat, you sit down, you don't say anything, and everyone is like silent. And then the teacher teaches very quietly, and you do your thing, you roll up your mat, and you leave. That was it.
Wow. Huh.
Get there, do your thing, you leave. Like you don't talk to anyone. That was their vibe. And I mean, it works for them because it was a very like individual meditative practice. But Red Bloom, Chris has really created a community and she calls it the Red Bloom community, the Red Bloomers. That's what she says. Oh, my
That's cute.
bloomers. She loves it. And then she goes, my bloomers and my zoomers. It's adorable.
Oh no.
I know, right? It's very cheesy. I'm so sorry, but it's still cute. But it's definitely that sense of community that is so worth it. And you need to find one that you really resonate with.